So for years now, universities have been using data to flag students who might be at risk of dropping out. But what if that same data could do more than just, sound an alarm? What if it could actually offer personalized, almost empathetic support and do it for thousands of students at once? Well, we're about to dive into a groundbreaking university case study that's making that exact idea a reality.
I mean, the whole promise of online education is just so powerful, right? It gives millions of adult learners the flexibility to study whenever, wherever, and to fit that learning into their already jam-packed lives. It's really a promise of opportunity. But here's the big paradox. Even though these students are incredibly motivated, online courses often have super high dropout rates. They've got the drive, so what's getting in their way? That is the central question we are digging into today. All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the online student's dilemma. Then we'll trace how data analytics evolved from just a warning sign into a real prescription for success. We're going to look at a real university's case study, see how they're profiling students to help them, and then wrap up by thinking about the future of this kind of data-driven empathy.
Okay, so let's start with the heart of the challenge. Distance universities, they're not dealing with your typical student body. It's a really complex group, and that creates a very specific kind of problem.
Now, the students themselves are not the issue at all. They are usually super motivated adults. But their greatest strength, this incredible diversity in their age, their jobs, their location, that's also the biggest hurdle. See, every single student is facing a completely unique cocktail of challenges, which makes any kind of one-size-fits-all support pretty much useless. And unfortunately, that leads to those high dropout rates.
So to try and get a handle on all this complexity, universities turned to a really powerful tool, learning analytics. This is basically how they started trying to peek inside the digital classroom. At its core, learning analytics is really just about collecting and analyzing student data. Things like how often you log in, when you submit assignments, your forum posts, all to understand and hopefully improve the learning experience. It's an absolutely essential tool for making sure online education actually works.
And this whole field has kind of grown up in 3 stages. It all started with descriptive analytics, just looking back at what already happened, like checking attendance. Then it got a little smarter with predictive analytics, using that old data to guess what will happen. But the real holy grail, where things are headed now, is prescriptive analytics, figuring out what we should actually do about it.
But making that jump from just predicting a problem to actually prescribing a solution, that is a massive leap. And honestly, for a long time, this is exactly where most systems have been stuck. Just imagine you're an advisor, and an alert pops up on your screen that says this. This student has a 78% chance of dropping out. I mean, that's an alarming piece of info, right? It's like a giant digital red flag waving in your face. And that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth do you do with that number? Why is their risk so high? Are they struggling with the course material? Are they getting swamped at their job? Are they just having tech problems? The prediction by itself, it doesn't tell you any of that. Without knowing the why, that warning is pretty much useless. And this lays out the difference perfectly. Predictive analytics is like a smoke alarm. It tells you who is in trouble. But prescriptive analytics, that's the firefighter showing up with a treatment plan. It tries to figure out why they're struggling and how to offer the right kind of support. It's the huge difference between an alarm and a helping hand.
So how do you actually build that helping hand? Well, let's get into a real-world case study from a Korean distance university. We're just going to call it H University, that has pioneered this exact approach.
First off, just look at the sheer scale of this research. The team crunched the numbers on over 140,000 student data points, gathered over 5 years. This is not some small-time experiment. This is a deep, systematic investigation into what makes online students tick.
And right out of the gate, even their basic predictive models started uncovering some really fascinating stuff. They found that the things that predicted dropout risk weren't the same for everybody. For instance, they found that for their male students, social and environmental things, like their job or where they lived, were much stronger predictors of dropping out. But for female students, it was more about their academic experiences, like their GPA and how satisfied they were with the course. The takeaway here is huge. You simply can't use the same cookie-cutter support strategy for everyone. So that insight pushed them to the next level, building a prescriptive model that goes way beyond just the numbers to actually understand the person behind all that data. Okay, this slide really gets to the core of the challenge. You can easily see the objective data, the what, right? Like a student isn't logging in regularly. But you can't see their subjective state, the why.
Are they feeling unmotivated? Are they swamped at work? Are they just frustrated with the website? The exact same behavior can come from completely different internal struggles.
Okay, so here's the really clever bit. The model analyzes all these patterns, like when and how often a student logs in or uses the course materials, and connects them to known psychological indicators of things like stress, motivation, or confusion. This creates a kind of estimated learning profile for every single student. Then, based on that profile, the system automatically sends out personalized tips. And just like that, you get support that is both deeply tailored and massively scalable. It's the dream.
And this table here shows what that support actually looks like in practice. If the system flags a student as maybe struggling with time management, boom, it might send a tip on setting SMART goals. If they seem to be behind on IT skills, maybe it sends a little guide on using AI search tools. It's all about practical, actionable advice aimed right at what the student seems to need.
This whole approach is a really massive shift in thinking. It's about using technology not just to measure students, but to actually understand and empower them. You could almost call it data-driven empathy.
So, what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, data has to lead to understanding, not just slapping a label on someone. Second, the ultimate goal is support that is both personalized and scalable. Third, this is all about empowerment. The system makes suggestions, but the student is still in the driver's seat. And finally, and this is crucial, this is not a plug-and-play solution. It has to be custom-built for each school's unique student body.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to chew on. As these systems get more and more sophisticated, they're going to be able to map out these incredibly effective paths for us to learn and grow. So the real question for all of us is this: if technology could design your perfect path to success, how much would you trust it to lead the way?